Good morning, or good evening, or good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. Richard Filmer here, and welcome to another Richard's Rock Rambles. We're going to have a look at another great debut album today, and this debut album was a real game changer. I mean, this guy brought the guitar to the forefront of music in rock. And I mean, before Jimi Hendrix, the guitar was around, but it just didn't have the status that he would give that particular instrument. And his debut album, for me, to this day, is an absolute classic. I mean, there were some great guitarists around, but when Jimi came on the scene, a lot of those guys thought maybe they'd taken up the wrong instrument. So we're going to have a look at the album, the sales. And, you know, if you were an aspiring guitarist back in the day and you saw Jimi Hendrix or you heard this debut album, it must have been so inspiring. And it's just timeless music and one of my favorite rock artists. So he recorded the album at the Lane Lay Studios in London, and it was released on May the 12th, 1967, all those years ago. And you know, if you play that album today, it sounds as fresh today as it did back in 1967. And it was produced by Chas Chandler. Of course, Chas Chandler was the bassist for the group The Animals. And he was the guy who kind of discovered Jimi and put him on the road to fame and fortune, or infamy as well. So in the album, on the album you had Jimi Hendrix, guitars, vocals and piano on the track Are You Experienced? So he did a bit of keyboard work as well. Noel Redding on bass, backing vocals and rhythm guitar. Noel Redding in fact wasn't a bassist. He was a guitarist, and Jimi asked him to learn the bass. So that was kind of new for him as well. And I thought he did pretty well on the debut album. And Mitch Mitchell on drums and percussion and backing vocals on the track Fire. So that would be the lineup for this great debut album, Are You Experienced, from Jimi Hendrix, the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Later on he would have lineup changes, but this was the lineup for pretty much the first and the only 3 studio albums that Jimi Hendrix did. On Electric Ladyland, the third one, there would be a lot more guests, and he would have expanded his sound quite a bit, a lot more psychedelic. Axis Boulder's Love, the second one as well, was quite a progression from the first album. But I think as far as debuts go, it was quite an eye-opener for the people back in the day. I mean, I don't think people had heard anything like Jimi Hendrix before. And it was quite strange that he was an American who had to sort of make it in the UK, then go back to America, where he wasn't really noticed or even appreciated. And of course, then he played at Monterey, and the people went, okay, this guy's pretty sharp. The album was actually engineered by Eddie Kramer. Eddie Kramer is from South Africa. Give a little tick for Eddie there for being a South African, and he's made such a difference to Jimi's sound in the studio. They would work pretty closely together, especially on albums like Electric Ladyland, where they would try all sorts of new things, very adventurous in the studio. Jimi, always willing to try new sound effects, new things on the guitar. And Eddie Kramer was the right guy to have with him. And Eddie Kramer, I think, was doing right up until the end. He was there at Woodstock as well. So he was there engineering. The album has gone 5 times platinum in the US, and that's a lot of sales. There have been numerous reissues over the years. The one that I have has got some extra tracks. And originally there were 2 versions. There was a UK version and a US version. The US version contained some tracks that had been released as singles that were pretty big. So they had Purple Haze, one of my favorite Jimi Hendrix tracks with that crazy guitar riff. Quite a heavy track back in the day. Hey Joe and The Wind Cries Mary, that beautiful, slow, atmospheric kind of track. So those were on the US version, and they weren't released on the UK. You know, a lot of bands and artists did that back in the day. You had 2 different versions of the album. Black Sabbath did it, Deep Purple did it, everybody did it back in the day. I think it had something to do with labels and the rights and what have you. So let's have a look at this album, this Game Changer. There we go, there are the three guys. That's Jimmy in the middle, obviously. And that's Noel Redding, and that's Mitch Mitchell. Mitch Mitchell's drumming was very jazz orientated, lots of fills, little touches here and there. I mean, he wasn't a John Bonham, he didn't smash the kid to pieces. But I think he was just the right fit for Jimmy, especially in the early part of his career. So the tracks on here, and I mean, there's not a bad track on here in my humble opinion. Foxy Lady, that was a big hit off here. With that great sort of guitar intro, that sort of strange sound that Jimmy got on the guitar, and then it goes into the track. Manic Depression, Red House, that great blues track. One of my favorite blues tracks of all time. Can You See Me, Love or Confusion, I Don't Live Today, another great track with excellent lyrics. That was another thing about Jimmy. You know, a lot of people don't realize that he was a great songwriter and a great singer. He was very self-conscious about his singing. In the studio, he didn't want people looking at him. He used to sort of have a barrier around him, and that was the only time that he would sing. He didn't think he was a great vocalist. I thought he was an excellent singer. But anyway, May This Be Love, Fire, that was another great rock track and a single off the album. And then we had Third Stone from the Sun, which was kind of like a psychedelic kind of track. And Hendrix would have a lot more of that style going forward in Axis Boulder's Love and Electric Ladyland. And Remember. There are some extra tracks on here that weren't on the original version. So you got Are You Experienced, Hey Joe, Stone Free, Purple Haze, one of my favorite Hendrix tracks. 51st Anniversary, The Wind Cries Mary, and Highway Child. Another excellent guitar. And I mean, all the guitar work on here is stellar. He got sounds out of his Strat that, yeah, people had never heard before. So let me see if there's anything I can show you inside. There we go. And there's 60s hairdos on Mitch Mitchell there with looking like somebody's granny. And in fact, that's what Jimmy used to call Noel Redding. He looks like somebody's granny. And that's Jimmy in his outfit over there. They were also quite groundbreaking in their look. You know, the sort of 60s. He used to go to all these fancy places in the UK looking for stuff to wear, different things to wear, just to sort of enhance the look on stage. But him playing the guitar was all you really needed to see, never mind the clothing. There's another great shot of the guys with their frizzy hair. I think they were all trying for the same look in the hair department there. So here you get a whole lowdown of the album, the recording, the songs. Different Noel Redding, the Mitch Mitchell. It tells you about how they started. And Jimmy, obviously. There's another great track of Jimmy and his trusty Fender Strat. Yeah, he became the sort of spokesman for Fender and for the Stratocaster in particular. There's another shot over there. Yeah, this is just a beautiful debut album, and it's got so many. It's got light and shade. There's some really heavy tracks, some beautiful slower tracks, but just excellent musicianship right throughout. And considering that Noel wasn't really a bass player, I thought he pulled it off pretty well. There's a great shot of Jimmy. I mean, there have been so many photographs of Jimmy over the years, but these early ones are quite cool. Let's see if there's anything else. There's another one. And he was a perfectionist in the studio, Jimmy. And they would, especially later on, like in Electric Ladyland, he would spend hours in the studio just, you know, trying to work out one little thing. And I think he he exasperated a few people, including Eddie Kramer at one stage, although I think Eddie was quite forgiving. And there's anything else? There's another shot of Jimmy. So there we go. Are You Experienced? The Jimi Hendrix Experience. And yeah, absolute classic. Became an iconic album. Like I said, you know, you can listen to this today and it's still amazing. I mean, if this had to be released now, it would still be groundbreaking. That's how good it is. And he would just go on to get much, much bigger. Go to Monterey, blow people's minds there. Obviously Woodstock. Only thing I was sad about Woodstock was by the time he played, everybody had left. You know, it was the last morning, and the majority of people had left. But I think those that were left behind and got to see Jimmy were really, they had a treat, because he was on fire, especially when he played the Star Spangled Banner. So there we go, Jimi Hendrix. If you don't have it, why not? You should get it. It's an absolute essential purchase for anybody who's into rock guitar, or even if you're not. You know, it's just a great album, excellent songs, and yeah, one which I reach for very often. So next time we're going to have a look at another debut album, and we're going to go a few years forward, or in fact all the way to 1977 or 78 I think it was. And we're going to have a look at an album done by a bunch of guys who were pretty much session musos, got together, they'd all grown up at school together, or knew each other very well, talking about the band Toto, and their particular brand of commercial rock mixed with a bit of prog and a bit of jazz, and their debut album that made quite a splash. So take it easy guys, have a great week, and I'll catch you next time. If you haven't done so, please, down below, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, or subscribe if you haven't, and any comments are welcome. I'll catch you next time. Cheers.